What if one day the internet just stopped? No Wi-Fi, no mobile data, no streaming? How would your world change? Imagine this. You wake up one morning, reach for your phone, and it's not working. No Wi-Fi, no mobile data, no emails, no social media. The internet, your connection to the world, has completely vanished. No more instant messaging, streaming services, online shopping, or even banking. How would your life change? How would the world around you react? Today, we're going to explore what would happen if the internet suddenly stopped working. Not just for a few hours, but for an indefinite period. From economic collapse to social upheaval, from infrastructure failures to the impact on daily life. Let's dive into the consequences of a world where the internet goes dark. To understand the impact of an internet outage, we first need to understand what the internet is. The internet is a massive network of computers and servers that spans the entire globe. It works through a system of interconnected networks, both public and private, that communicate with each other using a protocol called TCP/IP. The physical infrastructure of the internet includes fiber optic cables, satellites, cell towers, and data centers that store, process, and transmit data. From the websites you visit to the apps you use on your smartphone, every action on the internet relies on sending and receiving data packets across this complex infrastructure. When you send an email, it's not just traveling through the air. It's going through cables, servers, and satellites, sometimes halfway across the world before reaching its destination. The internet is also supported by countless stakeholders, from the companies that provide internet access, to governments that regulate it, to tech giants like Google, Facebook, and Amazon that manage enormous amounts of data. But here's the thing. Even though the internet feels like an unstoppable force, it's more fragile than you might think. So what happens if this entire system fails? The first few hours after the internet stops working would be marked by confusion. People would instinctively check their phones, laptops, or other devices, thinking there's a temporary glitch or network issue. But as hours pass and nothing changes, reality would begin to set in. The internet isn't just down temporarily, it's gone. Across the globe, people would realize that they're cut off from the digital world they've become so dependent on. The immediate impact would be felt in communication. Messaging apps like WhatsApp, iMessage, or even email would become unusable. Video calls, social media interactions, and even basic online searches would fail. The world would be thrust into silence, with no way to instantly reach loved ones, colleagues, or clients. For businesses, the shock would be even more severe. Entire industries rely on cloud-based platforms for storage, productivity tools, communications, and sales. Without the internet, remote work becomes impossible, businesses can't coordinate logistics, and cloud-based data can't be accessed. Productivity would grind to a halt almost instantly. In the financial sector, chaos would erupt as people scrambled to withdraw cash. Banking systems, which rely heavily on online networks for transactions, would freeze. Credit cards, debit cards, mobile payment apps, all would cease to function. In a world without internet access, your money would be locked away out of reach. Let's take a closer look at how the internet shutdown would impact the global economy. First, the financial markets would experience a catastrophic collapse. The stock exchanges, be it New York, London, Tokyo, or any major financial hub, are entirely dependent on online platforms for trading. High-frequency trading algorithms, international currency exchanges, and global investment firms all function in real time because of the internet. Without it, the stock market would crash in minutes. Supply chains would be another major victim of the outage. Modern global trade operates on a just-in-time model where goods are moved quickly from factories to warehouses to retailers with precision. This system is orchestrated by online data and tracking tools. Shipping companies, airlines, trucking fleets, and warehouses rely on the internet to coordinate deliveries. A disruption in this process would lead to shortages of goods, particularly essentials like food, medicine, and fuel. Supermarkets would run out of stock within days. Their supply systems, which depend on internet-based ordering and logistics, would collapse. The resulting shortages would lead to panic buying, and within a few days, many urban areas would see their grocery shelves empty out. E-commerce, which accounts for trillions of dollars globally, would cease to exist. Companies like Amazon, Alibaba, and Shopify would shut down completely, leading to layoffs, financial instability, and loss of revenue for millions of businesses and individuals who rely on online sales. Brick-and-mortar businesses, too, would be hit hard as payment systems, inventory management, and even advertising depend on the internet. One of the most dangerous aspects of losing the internet is how deeply critical infrastructure depends on it. Modern society is powered by systems that use the internet to monitor, control, and manage essential services, from electricity grids to water treatment plants. Electricity grids, for example, rely on sophisticated internet-connected systems to ensure the steady flow of power across cities and regions. Without real-time data to manage the grid, power plants would face massive disruptions, potentially leading to blackouts. A prolonged internet outage could leave entire regions in the dark. Water treatment plants use internet-based systems to monitor water quality, ensure safe distribution, and detect leaks or contamination. Without these systems, water distribution could become unsafe, putting millions of people at risk of contaminated drinking water. Hospitals are another critical infrastructure dependent on the internet. Electronic medical records, online diagnostic tools, and even some life-saving equipment rely on internet connectivity. Without access to these tools, healthcare providers would struggle to deliver care efficiently. Emergency services, 911 systems, police, fire departments, would also face communication breakdowns, slowing down response times and putting lives at risk. Transportation would also be severely affected. Air traffic control systems, which use the internet for navigation and communication, would become useless. Airports would have to ground planes, and thousands of travelers would be stranded. Public transportation systems, buses, trains, subways, rely on internet-based schedules and ticketing systems. These too would stop working, causing massive delays and gridlock in cities. Beyond the logistical chaos, the social impact of an internet shutdown would be immense. Social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok have become central to how we communicate, share news, and stay connected. Without them, people would be cut off from their communities and networks. For some, particularly younger generations, the absence of these platforms could lead to a sense of isolation. The loss of instant messaging apps and email would make it difficult for people to stay in touch. Without these tools, communication would have to revert to phone calls, letters, or in-person meetings. But with no GPS, no maps, and no online resources, finding and coordinating with people would be far more difficult. The psychological toll of losing the internet would also be profound. Many people have built their identities and social lives online, and the sudden loss of that connection could lead to feelings of loneliness, anxiety, and depression. The internet also serves as a major source of entertainment, whether through streaming services, video games, or social media. Without these outlets, people would struggle to fill their time, leading to boredom and frustration. Experts warn that the loss of online resources could trigger a mental health crisis. For those already experiencing isolation or mental health issues, the inability to access support communities or online resources could make things worse. In the long term, we might see increased rates of anxiety, depression, and stress. The political and military ramifications of an internet outage are equally troubling. Governments, law enforcement agencies, and militaries rely on the internet to maintain control, coordinate activities, and protect national security. Without these tools, governments would struggle to maintain order, while militaries would lose access to critical intelligence and communication systems. Most modern militaries depend on the internet for everything from logistics to communication with ground troops, airstrikes, and intelligence gathering. A global internet outage could render even the most advanced military systems useless. Nations that rely on sophisticated surveillance systems, drones, and cyber capabilities would lose their technological advantage. Politically, the loss of the internet could lead to unrest and instability. People would no longer have access to reliable news sources or official updates. With misinformation spreading through word of mouth or unverified sources, panic could set in. Protests, riots, and even violent uprisings could occur as citizens lose trust in their government's ability to manage the situation. On a global scale, diplomacy and international relations would be strained. Without the internet, world leaders would have difficulty coordinating responses to the crisis, leading to mistrust between nations. Countries that rely on international trade and communication would face new challenges as global coordination breaks down. Despite the chaos, humanity has always been resilient. After the initial shock of losing the internet, people would start to adapt. Communities would come together to create alternative methods of communication and collaboration. Radio communication, landlines, and in-person meetings would regain importance. People would rediscover the power of face-to-face interaction and local networks. Traditional media, such as newspapers, television, and radio, would see a resurgence. Without access to digital platforms, people would turn to analog methods for information and entertainment. Libraries might experience a renaissance, as people return to physical books for knowledge and resources. At the same time, engineers and innovators would work tirelessly to restore the internet. While the exact cause of the outage might determine how long it takes to fix, human ingenuity has always found a way to overcome adversity. New technologies, decentralized networks, or alternative communication systems might emerge from the crisis. The internet we have today is powerful, but it's also vulnerable. A total shutdown would force us to rethink how we build and maintain our digital infrastructure. The crisis could lead to the development of more decentralized networks, systems that are less dependent on centralized control and more resilient to global outages. In the end, the internet is both a blessing and a potential weakness. It has revolutionized the way we live, work, and communicate, but it's also made us incredibly dependent on digital infrastructure. A sudden loss of the internet would trigger chaos in the short term, but over time, humanity would adapt and find new ways to survive and thrive. The internet has brought about incredible advancements, but it's important to remember that it's a tool, and like any tool, it can fail. As we move forward into an increasingly digital world, we must consider how we can make our systems more resilient and ensure that we are prepared for the possibility of a world without constant online connectivity. What do you think would happen if the internet suddenly stopped working? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the big questions of our time.